بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وآله وصحبه وأزواجه وذريته أجمعين اللهم ربنا أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه اللهم أرنا حقائق الأشياء كما هي ربنا زدنا علما وعملا وإخلاصا يا رب العالمين وصلى وسلم على سيدنا محمد وآله وأصحابه وأزواجه وذريته أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. Experience. Our experience, Descartes observes in the regular, consists of whatever we perceive by the senses, the sources of experience, senses, whatever we learn from others, and in general, whatever reaches the intellect from external sources or from its own reflexive contemplation. That's self-reflection, introspection. Okay. With respect to data from external sources, Descartes frequently, in example, in the first meditation, warns against sensory experience. The senses are source of our experience, but he warns against them because of the potential source of error. But he also frequently underlines the importance of observational evidence in science. So, talking about the potential of error in sense observation doesn't mean that he is discounting the importance of or belittling the importance of sense experience. But I guess sense experience has to be put on the altar of or on the furnace of reason before it can be trusted and before the truth and error can be separated. Okay, when judiciously used, he suggests that in the regular, experience assists the intellect in reaching the truth. So experience is sense experience, I guess. So assists in reaching the truth. The Latin term used in regular is experimentum, which to the modern ear is suggestive of the scientific experience, and indeed something of this connotation is present in the Latin, the term being derived from the word experire, to test. That's what experiment is. Yeah, the experience is related to experiment. The same root is present in French expérience, which is the word Descartes most frequently employs when talking of scientific observation. The further we advance in our knowledge, he points in the discourse, the greater is the necessity for experience. This is because what can be deduced a priori are only very simple and general structural features of the material universe. Self-evident truths. When we descend to more particular things, we encounter such a variety that the human mind cannot possibly distinguish the form or species of bodies that are on the earth from an infinity of others that God might have put there. When we descend to more particular things, we encounter such a variety that the human mind cannot possibly distinguish forms or species of body that are on the earth from an infinity of other that God might have put there. The only way forward to proceed to the causes by way of effects. The only way forward is to proceed to the causes by way of the effects by making many special observations. But obviously, intellect is already also playing the role there, but not on its own. Descartes goes on to assert Descartes, Descartes goes on to assert that the future progress in science will depend in large part on the systematic search for such observational evidence, spatial observation. Descartes' scientific writing and his correspondence are full of references to experiment and observation. And we know that he performed a considerable number of experiments himself, particularly in the area of animal physiology. A keen interest in experiment is also shown in his early work on refraction of light. Compare the letter, etc. This last letter is instructive, however, since although Descartes here discusses in considerable detail the design for a possible experiment to confirm his theory of refraction, he goes on to admit that he actually performed the experiment only once. It would certainly be wrong to represent Descartes as a dedicated experimental scientist. He is aware of the general importance of observational results in testing theories, but his own practice often appears to display a certain perfunctoriness, and in not a few cases he seems content merely to suggest experiments for others to perform. It's also worth noting that when Descartes talks of experiments, he sometimes means not systematic attempts to verify or falsify his theory against the bar of experience, but rather more or less commonplace everyday observation, which he invokes to support, in a fairly loose sense, his supposition that mechanisms of a similar kind are operating at the micro level. For example, of observation of this kind, see principles, blah, blah, blah. The behavior of whirlpools in a river invoked to explain planetary motions. Principles, which is his book on physics. The behavior of droplets of water in a tub invoked to explain the gravity or heaviness of terrestrial particles. Okay. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب صلى وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وأزواجه وذريته برحمتك